Welcome to Things Go Sideways. This is a space for honest conversations about the moments when life doesn't just get hard, but it becomes impossible to manage, to reframe, or to power through. These aren't the stories about resilience as performance or lessons that are neatly wrapped with a bow. They're stories about reckoning, about what happens when something breaks the life that you were standing on and you have to figure out how to stand differently. Today, I am joined by Cecilia Satovich. Cecilia has spent years in leadership, growth, and strategy. She has worked hard to do things that rewards clarity, planning, forward motion. But her sideways moment didn't come from work. It came at the exact moment when life finally looked the way it was supposed to. And then what happened, Cecilia? Thank you for being here and for trusting this space and for trusting me with sharing your sideways story.
Oh, thanks so much. I'm excited to be here and talk about it.
In the lead up, I'm trying to sort of tease what this story is. And for anyone who's listening to this, understand that I can be a little bit more mysterious because I've actually known Cecilia for several years. Like, I really want to just laugh and joke and catch up, but we're here to tell this story. And your story is particularly compelling because I think that this idea of everything's going right, everything's going beautifully, and then this thing comes and rocks your world. So here's question number one. When you think about your sideways moment, where does the story really begin for you before the diagnosis itself?
I'm very lucky. I've had a life that is blessed and one that many people could easily take for granted. I met and married my husband when we were 22. We got to hang out and go to the clubs and do lots of fun things together for many years. And then we were like, well, we're outgrowing this and ready to have kids. And having kids didn't come as easily for us as it does for other people. But, we did all the things and IUI and then later IVF. And by 2019, had 3 girls and life was good. And then at the end of 2019, December, I went for my first mammogram because that was my 40th year. So, doing what the doctor said and done with breastfeeding and all of this stuff. That test came back abnormal and they had actually warned me, first tests often come back abnormal. It's not unusual to find something that you need to explore. So, I got that and I was like, first Christmas with the twins. We'll get to that in 2020. Right.
Right. No big deal. Probably nothing to worry about.
Exactly. I never even had known anyone to have anything to worry about. January of 2020, I went in for the second test and I knew something was up at that point because I'm sitting there in the awkward gown folded up like all the other people. And they keep calling me back and then they keep telling me just wait a little longer and then calling me back. And so it's like, okay, what's up here? A doctor came in and said, you have breast cancer. And I was like, you can't even know that yet, right?
Yeah. Isn't there more that has to happen?
Right. Are you sure? How could you be sure? That can't really be true, And she's like, no, it's right here. And so in the imaging, it looks like this evil, abnormal thing that just does not belong. And I had no signs prior to that. No one in my family has ever had it.
So there's no reason to expect it or to worry about it. Wow, I didn't realize it was after your first
mammogram.
Oh my gosh, everyone get mammograms. So what's going through your mind at that moment? Because what I know about you is you've always been very involved, very active. When you talk about having your girls and everything, you're not just a mom and very involved with your partner, but there's your family there. You're also active volunteer. You're very involved in the industry, the association industry. All your coworkers and colleagues love you and are always calling out. So What's going through your mind? Like, what's happening at that moment? Because you've got a very full life already and you just received this news.
So the very first thought, honestly, was I have to tell Joe. I have to tell my husband.
Yeah.
Like, how am I going to tell my husband? My kids are 4 and almost one. The twins, their birthday's in February. So it was just kind of this impossible life to imagine of like, what does that mean? Like, what do we do? Like, what's the next step? And so next step was further testing to confirm it. And I was like, oh, well, then if it hasn't been confirmed, it might not be cancer, right? And she was like, well, that would be inconsistent with my findings. This doctor was not going to let me leave until she knew that I understood I had cancer.
Right.
And so it was really scary in that moment because not only to know something, but to not know anything more about it. How big is it? What stage is it? What does treatment look like? Nobody will talk to you about any of that
Yeah.
until your next test, until you meet with the surgeon. And so it was just this long, gosh, it was probably 8-week process before we really got to a plan where I was just ruminating on what do we do?
The stability has been rocked. Really, it's like you've taken a snow globe, you've shaken it up. This is your life, and you're sort of watching everything fall around you. It was 8 weeks that you were going through just waiting for the next test. I think that would be so hard. You have all of this life around you that you love so much, and you're in this uncertainty, and you know there's this cancer, like the big C, that you don't know more about it, but it's not something that's separate from you. It's your body. That had to be hard to reckon with. What was going through your mind at that time as you're like grappling with your day to day? I was talking with someone the other day and she was talking about there were moments when she would look around and people were like picking up their kids from the bus stop and other people just driving around. And she wanted to scream out, like, don't you understand what's happening in my life right now? Like, you're acting like everything's normal and life's not normal. Did you ever feel like that? What was going on?
I was surprised by how sad everything made me. I had always heard about people have these big moments and then it makes them realize how much they love everything. I looked around and just felt sad. What will my girl's life be without me, without their mom?
That's hard.
And everything made me sad. The furniture, the house, songs I listened to, looking at my kids, like everything was, what will this be if I'm not here? And oh, it was awful. And Joe just kept, it was funny. He had this moment with me where he was like, I'm trying to be here for you and also have my own feelings and don't want to like burden you with them.
Oh,
But I want to be practical and say, let's not worry about it till the next step. We'll deal with it with the next step. There's got to be treatment options. It's 2020. There's treatment options. Well, 2020. And I was the last surgery before they closed the shop.
really?
Yeah. The fact that they considered my surgery optional is incredible to me.
Yeah. Can you imagine what if that just been moved just a little bit?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Insane. But yeah, it really rocked my world to think about. Because at the time, yeah, a working professional, we were paying $1,000 a week in childcare.
Yeah.
Because, 2 infants and a 4-year-old, right? Like they're not in public school yet.
Oh, yeah.
It was just kind of impossible to imagine what a life with treatment was going to look like. So in that sense, COVID was actually very lucky for me.
Yeah. Because everybody was forced to change the way that they were doing things. It was not like the idea of having to work from home and having family at home and all of this other stuff. Everybody was figuring out how to do that. So is that what your family was doing too?
Yeah. So my husband ended up working from home, and I had already talked to my boss and said, at the point that we had a treatment plan, I was like, they're going to do a surgery and then what? And then we'll see. Because what happens is with cancer, well, with breast cancer anyway, I'm not sure about other cancers, is that they give you an initial diagnosis. And then it's not until after the surgery where they've really tested the whole cancer that they determine a treatment plan.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
The thing that the surgeon had said to me that really stuck with me was, because I was asking her, like, how do I plan around this, right? Like, I'm a busy mom, I work. She was like, you are not going to have the year that you expected to have. And that was actually one of the most helpful things that someone told me was just whatever plans you had for your year, toss it out.
Wow.
I know.
So if you're thinking through the lens of what was happening in 2020 and COVID is going on, and so everyone's sort of living through uncertainty, you definitely had more than your share of the uncertainty going on. But in a way, that stillness that was around everybody sort of staying in place, conferences that would normally be happening were either canceled or they were virtual, things that would require your travel. I'm just thinking about what would normally have been going on would have thankfully been easier to probably manage and navigate because everything was sort of closed down. So now, had you not been able to have your surgery when you needed to, that would have been problematic. But like, since you were able to, it probably helped to have some of these other things that were sort of taken off of the table. You're not going to worry about going to that annual meeting or that one. You're going to be able to stay in one spot for most of the time.
Yeah. I would say things actually got harder as things opened up, as people started to get back to work or feel a little more comfortable getting back in person and things. I had one friend at the time who's in the medical field, right? So she was working throughout that time and she was in a cardiac unit. Even the cardiac unit had been closed for 2 weeks or 3 weeks during that time here in Pittsburgh. But she had texted me at one point, like, I don't understand. Why are you being so careful? Why are you being so conscious? And I was like, because I don't want anything to interfere with my treatment plan.
You had to be so scared.
It was the surgery, and then we didn't know if I was going to need chemo. Thankfully, I didn't. But then I needed to do radiation, and we still had to figure out childcare. Like, my big fear during COVID was that, other than cancer, right, was that my husband and I would get it and we wouldn't be able to take care of our kids.
Yeah. Oh, it was such a scary time. And I was terrified of even the idea of going to the grocery store or even if we had groceries delivered. Remember, it was like you want to practically fumigate everything before it comes in. And none of us knew what was going to happen. It was fair. I mean, it was like this mystery. And so you said before there was a thought that shifted everything for you. The idea that maybe this wasn't happening to you, but through you. Do you remember when that idea first hit you, when that first landed for you?
I do. So it was in April of 2020. So the timeline is my cancer is confirmed in January. Then in February, we're figuring out the treatment plan. Very beginning of March, I have my surgery. And then mid-April, my best friend's youngest daughter, it's the same age as the twins, is diagnosed with cancer.
Oh my.
It was leukemia. And I don't know anything about the blood cancers, right? That was not the same as my cancer. And I had the thought, why do bad things happen to good people? Especially like the innocence of a child. And that took my mind back to, so I had gone through the RCIA program, which is a Catholic thing the year before. And the priest had said to me at that point, he was like, oh, what'll really get you is that question. Why do bad things happen to good people? And from that, I thought, well, maybe this wasn't for me. Like maybe this happened so that I could help guide my friend and tell her, you're not going to have the year you thought you were going to have. Like, it's okay if looking at your daughter makes you feel sad right now.
Yeah.
Instead of like, oh, how in love am I with her? Because of course you are, but like, it's okay if looking around makes you feel sad. And so that was a really big shift moment for me because then when I started going to radiation, It's like, I can be the light for these people.
Wow.
I can go in and joke around with them. There's nothing wrong with like enjoying my hour drive to downtown, my my half hour like laid out on a table, just like waiting for radiation in the cold, because those people were scared too, right? It was COVID. So all of them, every time they were seeing me, they were risking getting exposed.
What changed in your nervous system when that thought was allowed to stay with you? When you were like, oh, I can think about it this way. And that shift happened. What happened internally for you? And did it make things easier?
Oh, absolutely. Because it sounds very strange, but I am so lucky, right? Like I get to be this voice for people. Like I was sitting waiting for a mammogram a few years ago. It's kind of uncomfortable. Everyone's in their like weird little jacket things, no bras on. It's not the time to socialize, right?
Yeah.
I jokingly say to the woman to my left, like, hey, what you in here for? And she starts sobbing.
Oh,
And she was like, oh, I'm sorry. I've just, I had cancer a few years ago and I'm really scared of what my results are going to be and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, that's okay. I've been there. I get it. It's all right.
we were talking a little bit before, and I didn't think that I was going to maybe share this during our discussion, but I was sharing with you that I've waited a long time because I feel really uncomfortable. I mean, let's be honest, like the idea of exposing yourself and the mammogram, even if it's not super invasive, this idea of somebody else that's coming over and touching you on your, like I'd even had one scheduled before a couple of years ago. And in full transparency, I'm 49 years old. I have waited a long time to do this. And just today, it just so happened, it wasn't because I was talking with you, we rescheduled this, and stuff has gotten jostled. And it's like, it just so happened that this morning was my very first mammogram. And so all these things you're talking about is like, I actually know what you're talking about now, the being uncomfortable. And like, it's not exciting to go in and be like, hey, yeah, you stranger that I'm just meeting now, you say your name's Charity. Well, haha, funny, Charity. Yeah, enjoy my right breast as you're positioning it and making it terribly uncomfortable. Like nothing exposed about this at all, nothing awkward. Such a weird experience. I was dreading it the whole time there. I was worried about what it would be like. I was extremely mortified going through the whole thing. Like, oh my gosh, I don't want to joke. I don't want to laugh. I don't know what to do. And then as soon as it was over and I was putting my coat on and all of this stuff and walking outside, I just felt like, I'm so glad I did that. I didn't know that I would feel that way, but I felt really happy that I had just gone and taken care of myself. I didn't realize I was holding such fear inside about just going to get a mammogram. I don't know how many people actually feel like that out there. I'm pretty brave about a lot of things, but on stuff like that, I'm not so brave, it turns out. And I just think that the story that you're relating to me about sitting there and just kind of joking with the people around you, like, this is awkward and like, hey, what's going on? And then being able to listen and witness as somebody is sharing their own fears and story. I think that's beautiful because it's an uncomfortable kind of situation, it's awkward for a lot. And if somebody's gone through something, there's a lot that's tied to being a woman, that's tied to your breasts and like this idea of being a mother. And there's so much tied between who we are, our identities as women, and the breast. That I think there's a deeper psychological thing going on there.
Oh, there really is. Yeah. It's sort of funny because I think every woman's maybe a little different about what she feels defines her as a woman.
Hmm.
And it's going to sound silly for me. It's my hair, right? Like just having hair, just getting new hairstyles.
I mean, I have to say, you have gorgeous, thick, amazing hair,
And I get to do a lot with it, right? But for other women, it's their breasts. For other women, it's being able to. I have a friend who felt that she was less of a woman because she didn't get to birth vaginally.
Mm.
She got pregnant, she had the baby. It's just that she had a C-section. And somehow that made her feel less than. And I respect that that's how that made her feel. And at the same time, I'm like, that's not what makes you a woman. I can't quite put my finger on it. I think it's something else, some other way of being or seeing things or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
So later that same year, right? So there was my diagnosis, my friend's daughter's diagnosis. And then at the end of the year in December, my friend Stephanie texted me a little bit after Christmas. She was just like, FYI, I'm having a hysterectomy. And I was like, whoa, like that's not just a text FYI kind of thing. Like, what's going on, Grace? And she explained the situation. And then a week later, New Year's Eve, she got the call that it was actually cancer. And it was a very rare, aggressive form of cancer called sarcoma, soft tissue sarcoma. And at that point, I'd only known, so Stephanie's son is friends with my oldest, Julia. They were in the same preschool 2-year-old room. They had stayed friends through all this time. So I didn't even know her that well. She was my kid's friend's mom. And it very much was a diagnosis that she was going to die in the next 5 years.
Oh my gosh.
The chance of survival for soft tissue sarcoma are not great. And when she texted, she was like, don't Google it. And I was like, of course I'm going to Google it. But I told her, you're not going to have the year you expected to have. And one of the cooler things that came out of my previous experience earlier in the year is I had gotten to know a lot of doctors. I had gotten to know a lot of friends. I'd reached out to everybody I knew and told them, like, I have cancer. So I already knew the specialists and was like, here's who you're going to go see. And I texted my friend and she scheduled the appointment for Stephanie. And in January, Stephanie was seeing the best person that she could for the follow-up to that. She didn't survive. Sadly, she died a few years later, but she credited me, and I don't know that I deserve the credit. She credited me with prolonging her life, getting her more time, getting her the best care, because I was able to do that for her.
I think it's incredible. I think that so many people have fear about their loved ones, the people that are near them, or even just people they know in their community who get sick with something that is cancer or something that may be terminal, that are facing these health issues. I remember when my mom was still alive, she had a horrible time visiting friends that would end up in the hospital, even family members. And I think it was a fear. She would say, I just don't want to see them like that. I know that for a lot of people, they are just so fearful of the emotions that they're going to feel, or they're going to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing. You found yourself walking alongside others whose outcomes were very different from yours. What is it like to sit there with someone when you've battled your own or were battling your own issues? Someone else is dying and you're still alive. What is that like for you now?
It is awfully sad. It's not that it's not sad or that it's not hard, but you have something to give. So give it. I don't mean to make it overly religious, but God has given you this gift. He's given you this experience. It is your mission now to carry that forward. And so I'm very lucky to have been a part of that for Stephanie. It is a strange thing to get to know someone as they're dying. I mean, she had this whole life before I met her, right? She had all these friends from her college years that were her main support system. And still, when she went on hospice, I was one of the first people that she allowed to come see her.
Wow.
It's a big honor. And it's really hard, I think, for the people who are experiencing a scary diagnosis to ask for that help, because you just don't even know what help you might need.
Yeah.
But Stephanie was the person when I had my diagnosis that said, like, what can I do for you? How can I help? And I was like, I'm really not sure, but I think Julia's going to need some play dates.
Mm-hmm.
She's not going to be experiencing a normal life. Like, let's get her as normal a thing as we can. And so a few weeks after my surgery, Stephanie had us over and the kids went and played, and Stephanie and I talked and we caught up about things and that kind of stuff. So how could I not return that favor and be with her when she needed me? I think from experience with Stephanie and others, you're really not going to say the wrong thing.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
Too much gets made of that.
So, what misconceptions do people have about that kind of thing? Because I know there are so many people that are like, I just don't want to say the wrong thing. And they're afraid of making missteps. And the approaches are wildly different. One person will say, we absolutely need to create a meal train. And then the other person would be like, no, 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 I didn't want one of those when it was me, And I think that people get worried that they're just going to do or say the wrong thing. What do you say to that? What do you think from your experience?
Too many people run away. Too many people leave you on your own. And I don't begrudge them. I get it. Before my experience, I would have done the same.
Is that true? Do you think so?
That is true. Yeah. That I wouldn't have known what to say. I wouldn't have known how to say it. I wouldn't have known what to offer. I feel the same way about meal trains. I didn't want them when my kids were born.
Yeah.
But in my experience, so my friend Megan, kind of funny because she didn't mean to do it, but she was like very upset about my diagnosis. And she didn't mean to, but she actually had come on the twins' birthday, like the twins' birthday party. I hadn't told any of our family yet about my diagnosis.
Oh, no.
And she came to the door.
Wow. Birthday party for the record books. Yeah. Wow. Oh, man.
And she left this basket of like soothing things, like a cooling face mask and lotion and some chocolates and other stuff. And my mother-in-law was like, oh, what's this for? And I was like, she must be celebrating me as a mom. That's really sweet of her to think of me. Just like,
That was a good cover. Oh my gosh.
or after I finished my radiation treatment, I called it the cancer plant. A mom from the daycare, I learned later, she had a friend with a very similar diagnosis who had passed. So imagine this poor woman, the same week that I tell her I have cancer, her friend dies of breast cancer. It was the same kind, same characteristics, it's just her friend got it earlier. So it didn't get caught in the mammograms until much later, like not too late to treat, but too late to treat effectively. And so she had deep feelings about it. And she was very sweet. She had kept reaching out to me and texting me and asking how I was doing and that kind of stuff. And then she gave me, at the end of my treatment, she left me the cancer plant. And I called up Megan and I was like, this is very, very sweet of her, but I'm only going to look at this plant and think of cancer like every day. Like, can you please just take, take this plant?
Did you take the plant?
Yeah. She came by, she took it off my porch with like, the plant is gone.
Yeah. I mean, plants, it could go either way. I can be like, is it easy to take care of and it's not going to require is it like an aloe plant or is it something that I'm going to kill? Because if I kill this plant, I'm going to be like, no.
Right? My life is now tied to this plant.
Yes. I'm worried about this life. I can't worry about the other. Yeah.
Yeah. But I bring up those two cases, right? Because it's not that either of them did anything wrong and it still stays with me. They were thinking of me. And I love that. And so I don't think you can do anything wrong.
Yeah. Even the cancer plant, it was all nice things. I love that. I guess in going through this experience and thinking about purpose, not maybe in the grand sense, but like, did this experience change your understanding of purpose or in how you show up for people now? Like, obviously, it sounds like it did. You now feel like, oh, yeah, I'm not as afraid to say the wrong thing because I know it's just important to be there for your own purpose. You shared this idea of this gift that you have in the life that you have now, that it's like you really recognize that. Has that stayed with you? Is that something that you try to teach to your kids, or do you feel like that it's sort of demonstrated?
Yeah. even with like my coworkers and direct reports. Somebody has a sick kid or a sick parent, or I'm sorry, I'm off my game today because my friend isn't doing well or had some diagnosis. I'm like, you got to go.
Yeah.
This is what PTO is for. Like, you know,
Yeah.
don't worry. Like, work is secondary, it's tertiary. Yes, work matters, but people and relationships are why we're really here. So, yeah, that experience absolutely has changed me for the better, for sure.
Does that original fear return? Does old panic or grief resurface still to this day? Or is it something that you've figured out a way to deal with and sort of like, nope, I'm good. I don't like, do you still get nervous about some of this stuff?
I do. So, the other part of my treatment plan is like a hormone therapy thing. So, there's different things in the body that the cancer can use to grow.
Mm,
So, if you're lucky, it's using estrogen to grow. And well, if it's using estrogen, then you just cap the estrogen. And if it returns, it's going to be slow growing because it doesn't have the estrogen to attach to and do things with. Right. So, with that, you know, I still have regular appointments and I still have to take a medication and still on my mind every mammogram. Right. Like, if it could, one of the stranger things that nobody ever tells you about breast surgery is that you'll have like all of these little pings and pangs here and there, you know, like random pains. And then you'll have a thought of like, oh, is it cancer? Is that normal? Should I be feeling that way? It's all par for the course.
wow.
But so my youngest, well, I guess I have two youngest, the twins, but the truly youngest, the second born twin, was diagnosed with anxiety when she was 4. So she has a really high IQ. And because of that, she notices everything around her. But she also has had the life experience of a 4-year-old. She's now 7. So she has the experience of a 7-year-old, but the intellect of like a 12 or 13-year-old, right? Like she can really absorb a lot. And with anxiety is you just have to keep exposing someone to things that they're fearful of. And then they learn that they can deal with it. So in some ways, I feel that now that I already had one of the worst things happen and I got through it.
I have a question I like to end our conversation with, but before I do that, I have been asking people about how they contend with those times now, going through the sideways moments that have really rocked their worlds, how they do self care. Are there habits, practices that you have that keep you regulated, keep you in a space where you feel you're healthiest? Are there things that you do on a regular basis now that you didn't used to handle the stress? Because one thing that seems to be consistent that I didn't know when I started this podcast is that everyone seems to realize they learn somewhere through these sideways stories that there's something that they can start to do that is going to help them get a more even keel or sort of figure out while they're in the midst of change or in the midst of stressful situations, those things that will help them to keep going. Do you have that? Have you found things that seem to work really well for you?
I confess it's going to sound really cheesy.
That's okay. Cheesy is okay.
That's my caveat. It's that so I don't formally journal it, but I do practice gratitude.
Mm,
And sometimes it shows up in different ways. So it's when I'm in bed. So it's either as I'm going to sleep at night, thinking about 2 or 3 things that I'm really grateful for in the day, doesn't matter what they are, or in the morning, or sometimes both. Even in the morning, where it's just like, oh, I'm so lucky. Like, here I am, like in this bed where I control the temperature of the air like a god. Like, not everyone gets that.
yes.
How lucky are we?
Yeah.
But we forget. And like, it's okay that people forget. And it's okay that sometimes I forget too, how lucky I am
Yeah.
to be here. There was a post that went around a while back that I enjoy that says, what if your spirit has been waiting for 300 years to be in the body that you have right now? What if?
Yeah.
Then, like, aren't you just so glad to have this moment, like this day, this body? Like I finally got to the moment of I can look around and be happy again.
Yeah.
But those weeks after that diagnosis, I'm telling you, everything made me depressed. I was just so sad. I couldn't get out of it. I could barely look at the kids. It was awful.
Oh, because you have everything the way that you want it to be. And then there's this thing that's threatening all of it, that's threatening your participation in this life that you love
Right.
and what it would mean for them in case that got disrupted. I mean, that's hard. And I imagine that there's not just fear and it's not just grief over this is what I expect, and I'm not necessarily going to get that the way that I want it. But there's also anger, I imagine. Like you said it before, and this is the thing that I thought it's so true that people have this question all the time. Why do bad things happen to good people? We look around in the world right now, and sometimes it can seem like all of these bad people have good things that happen to them. Like, and you're like, why do bad things happen to good people? And then you realize it's not about that. Life is going to life. Like, one thing we know for sure is there's change. And I think that in these sideways moments, in these sideways stories, there's a lot of beauty because in that change, sometimes we have the biggest gift of discovery and understanding. And I do not want to try to tidy it all up and make it sound like, oh, lucky us that we get to have problems, because I don't mean that at all. Like, nobody wants the sideways moments. But if you find yourself in those moments, and we all do, what is it when you're there to help you to actually get the meaning out of it? Where can I look at the joy and the privilege and the love and the beauty of all that has come before it and all that is around me right now? And that's hard to do when it feels like your core is being shaken. If someone listening is in the middle of their diagnosis, their loss, their impossible uncertainty, and it feels like everything that's meaningful to them is under threat, what feels honest for you to say to them right now?
I will use the words of one of my favorite authors, John Irving. He wrote A Prayer for Owen Meany, which, if you haven't read it, highly recommend it. In that book, he says, I wish I had known then what I know now, which is everything works out. Everything works out with enough time and distance. And I say that knowing and having friends like Stephanie who died, and Bridget, my friend's youngest, who's the same age as the twins, or was the same age as the twins. She ultimately passed away. And in the end, it's okay. I wouldn't have asked them to live the way that they were living in the end. And so it's okay. You find your way through it, and every life continues. My aunt had said this to me: a fully lived life has all the emotions.
Yes. Oh my gosh. All of the emotions. There's a reason for all of them. And even those painful ones, even the anger, even the fear, even the heartache, they're all part of a life. And oh my God, I'm going to cry. Okay. So thank you for having this conversation with me. Thank you for staying present in this conversation with me and your honesty, and for refusing to turn something that was so life altering into something that's performative. Thank you for being real and bringing that to this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity and this platform to share my experience, share my story, to remind everyone to get their mammograms.
Yeah.
If you have a woman in your life, have her get her mammogram, because our lifetime risk is 1 in 7.
Is it really? I didn't even know that.
1 in 7 will have breast cancer.
Wow. One of the quiet truths that keeps surfacing on this show is that not everything that changes us is meant to be explained away. Some experiences don't make us better or stronger. They make us more present, more human, and more willing to stay. Thanks to everyone listening. Thank you to our guest, Cecilia, and we'll see you next time.